What's up, guys, and welcome back to 4K Motoring. You guys have probably seen in the news recently, the new Chevrolet Corvette C8 ZR1 has been announced with 1,064 horsepower, which is absurd. But I just wanted to take a little time to share my thoughts and to get your opinions on this new car from Chevrolet. Alright, those of you that watch my channel should be pretty well aware, I have a 2001 Corvette. This is the C5 generation. It is the second half of the C5 generation, where I would say if you're going to buy one, I would look 2001 and up, just because a lot of the early issues were kind of resolved on this refresh series. 2001 is also when they released the Z06 for the C5 generation, which I really think was the first movement into the truly modern performance cars from Chevrolet. Obviously the C4, when it came out, it was dominating its European competition, which was pretty cool. The C5, when it came out, was kind of done in secret, a lot of the R&D, but it was a complete redesign from the chassis, the hydroform chassis, the rear transaxle system, everything that made the C5 Corvette what it was, kind of done in secret. And that really was the underpinnings and foundation for the C5, the C6, and C7 generations Corvettes were all pretty much a C5 in architecture, just tweaked and refined to get to where we became at the end of the C7 generation with the ZR1. For those of you that have driven a Corvette, you know how fantastic these cars are, especially for the value. And that is ultimately what they've been. They've been one of these cars that are truly attainable for just about anybody. You can work hard and buy one of these things and not have to do some of the unspeakable things you would to afford something like a Ferrari or a new Porsche or any of the European exotic cars, something like that. The C8 generation, when it came out, it was pretty revolutionary with its new mid-engine architecture. Kind of a big departure from anything before, and what the godfather of Corvette, Zora Arkus Duntov, wanted was the mid-engine Corvette. Truly, for handling, that's where it had to go. Chevrolet said they had reached the end of the basically capability level of this chassis, the front engine, rear-wheel drive architecture. They've reached the peak of what they could do with the C7, especially the Z06 and ZR1s, so they had to do something different. Mid-engine is where they went, and we got the C8. Super exciting cars. You guys have seen them all around. Hard to believe they've been making them for almost 5 years now. Absurd. They're just now getting to the point where you can buy them under MSRP. I don't really see them stacking up at dealerships, that sort of thing, but at least there's some available, and it's not like it was just a couple years ago. Chevrolet one-upped it with the release of the Z06, which, from my personal opinion, I think is the best C8 out now. It has that 5.5 liter flat plane crank, and it sounds like a Ferrari. Chevrolet said that they basically benchmarked the Ferrari 458, which is one of my all-time favorite cars, in designing and building the C8, especially the Z06 with that engine. And ultimately the noises it makes, the RPM limit, and the stuff it does, truly impressive. Now we've gone one step further, as Chevrolet does, and they brought out the new ZR1 edition. Typically, at least from my understanding, the ZR1 has never really been a track car. There's some overheating issues. They're more straight line, pure acceleration, high performance cars. But the new one tops the C7 ZR1, which I believe was around 755 horsepower. I'll put that number on screen if I'm wrong. But the new one, 1,064 horsepower from factory, completely stock with a warranty. I gotta say, I don't know anybody that's gonna be able to dispute that that is damn impressive. I'm pretty disappointed at what Chevrolet did as far as the unveiling of it. They made a big deal of when it would be released, and they had some social media posts. They noted it was July 25th was the release date for something big. We knew it was the ZR1. July 25th came and went, and what did we get from Chevrolet? A little short reel sort of thing. That was it. It apparently was the embargo date for all of the YouTubers out there that post their content that have already had a chance to kind of get up and close and personal with the car. And I think based on the development of the chassis, bringing Amelia Hartford in with her twin turbo Corvette, 2 Chevrolets, they can look at it, and everything they've done with YouTubers in the background, I think that may be the kind of the direction they wanted to go. But without an official presentation, it was a little bit of a weird unveiling. Personally, that's what I thought. Let me know what you guys thought. Did you guys search for a Chevrolet unveiling of this thing when it was supposed to be unveiled? What did you find? There's some pretty good YouTube channels out there, obviously way better than mine, way more production value, and they had some good stuff out there, but there was no Chevrolet production, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. 1,064 horsepower. Now, that is an absurd number, but when we talk about horsepower, one thing that has recently come to at least somewhat attention, especially in the motorcycle community, is the talk about how electronic aids have changed what horsepower feels like. If you guys can imagine back to, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, any car that had 400 horsepower or so felt fast. I mean, it was hard to control, and because of that, it felt dangerous, it felt fast, it felt like a lot of horsepower for the chassis. In comes the electronic aids, namely traction control, that will actually cut torque, as well as some of the computer programming that doesn't let you have full torque and horsepower in the first gear or two, depending on the circumstances. And these big horsepower numbers don't feel like big horsepower numbers anymore, not in the way they did earlier, because you don't get all of it when you put your foot down. Good and bad, you guys let me know what you think. I think it's pretty cool. You can have a 1,000 horsepower vehicle that you can drive on the street and it not be absurd all the time. Kind of neat. I also think some of these older cars, namely this C5, it does have the active handling system, which cuts power, and if you've ever turned off your traction control or put it in race mode, you know how much different this car feels without the car kind of pulling power back from you. 350 to 400 horsepower, depending on the generation and model C5 you have. There's a lot of power for this chassis. It's a lot of power for this size car. And without the computer behind you, depending on how you're driving, it takes an added level of skill to be able to handle this kind of vehicle. So what we don't know so far is the price point, but I'm gonna imagine it's gonna be somewhere, probably MSRP starting around 160-ish if I had to guess. But you're probably not gonna be able to get one under 200,000 or so for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, all the Z06s are starting to come down. I've seen some dealerships selling those under MSRP, and the actual base C8 Stingray is being sold under MSRP now, which I think is pretty cool. In some cases, it's been down almost 10 grand under MSRP for the base Stingray, which, with the employee factory pricing, I guess, which is a pretty big discount from just a couple years ago when they were selling for 20, 30, 40,000 above MSRP used. So again, obviously I've not gotten my hands on one of these things, but I saw it. I thought it was super impressive that Chevrolet went this direction and really pushed the envelope, not just a little bit, but totally changed the game with over 1,000 horsepower with a warranty from factory. Absolutely absurd. We are still waiting and have rumored the C8 Zora, which I do expect to come out. They've kind of made hints. There's been signs of it. Something with the electric engine from the E-Ray for the front wheel drive system, possibly boosted up a little bit with that ZR1 power plant from the back. That thing would be an absolute monster. So I haven't done a video quite like this in a while. You guys let me know what you think about this car. I'm pretty excited by it. I'm pretty excited to hopefully get into a C8 platform sometime soon. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be keeping the C5 or getting rid of it. Values have dropped a little bit, but they're kind of holding steady now. So time will tell. Obviously, the more money I keep dumping into this, the less I'm going to see that money ever again. For those of you that are around North Carolina or Virginia, I will be at the IMSA races at VIR seeing the new C8R in person in about 2 weeks. August, I believe, 23rd through 25th. I'll be up there in the Corvette Corral. Feel free to stop by and say hello if you see me there. I'll be walking around. I might bring you some content. If there's anything you want to see, please let me know. So let me know your thoughts. Did Corvette do the right thing with this new C8 ZR1? Are they on the right path? What would you have liked to see different? Are they headed in the right direction? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching 4K Motoring. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and like this video if you like this sort of content, and we'll be back soon.